Welcome to Folks Around the World. Our next guest is somebody who rescues dogs. He's on Vancouver Island. His name is Jesse. He is with Raincoast Dog Rescue. We're going to bring him in and find out about his passion and how he's helping tons of dogs, not just here on the island, but actually all over the world. So let's bring him in and see if he can share a little bit about his passion with us. And here he comes.
Oh, there we go. Can you see
Yeah,
me
so
all right?
turn it.
Oh, it was already turned. So, there we go. Now it works again.
There.
There we
Welcome.
go. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Jesse, I have so many questions for you. And so you are running a dog rescue on Vancouver Island.
Yes, I run a nonprofit registered charity dog rescue society. Yeah, Vancouver Island, correct.
And I've been following you and some other people on the island, and this is new for me. All of this is new. We wanted a dog, and we definitely wanted to adopt one.
Mhm.
And we had already adopted a cat in the past when we lived in France. And it's just a whole different world out there, I would say, that I've been learning so much from people like you, from people that are doing the same thing, that are posting stories and what's going on in the world. And it's amazing. Like, it's pretty intense what's going on out there, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot more than people know. I think the average public of what's going on in regards to animal welfare and adoption and stuff like that. Yes.
So I wanted to know if you could share your first experience with us that you had, no matter what age. Maybe it was when you were a kid, I don't know, but like rescuing any animal. And
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Rescuing any animal. Oh man, from a kid, I was all over the place, always trying to find hurt or injured animals and bring them home. So I'm sure I was probably younger than I can even remember, to be honest with you. It probably was some like injured little mouse or like rat or snake I found most likely. But honestly, can't remember. It probably, out of my memory, it'd probably a hamster I found outside the complex building we lived in when I was a child. I think I was around 9 years old. That was probably the first one that I can remember, and I named him Hammy the hamster. I remember him very well. So that was in my memory that I can remember. Probably my first ever rescue, I guess, that I can remember of was a hamster that I found outside.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's probably it.
And then, like, how did you get into it? Seems like you're focused on dogs, or are you also
Well,
doing other animals, cats, and things too?
yeah, so primarily we're focused on dogs. That's kind of how the organization started off in just dogs, but we've now moved into helping some cats too. It's a whole different ballgame with cats as well, getting to know them. And then also it's just a lot of it's just monetary, right? Like we're just private organizations that are small. I mean, we get the community that does help us, but the amount that it costs to actually rescue animals and get the medical care and everything that they need is very extensive. It's a lot, especially here in British Columbia and or Vancouver Island. Vetting is very expensive here compared to other places in the province and the world. Our vet costs are whew, very high. So that always plays a huge part. But yes, we like to help all animals. So if someone has a horse in need, we'll reach out to our friends that run a horse rescue, or maybe we'll do a post or reach out to our friends at the SPCA or whatnot, or humane societies. So we don't at this time intake any other animals besides dogs and cats, but we do have a dream to move forward and open up our own large rescue sanctuary so we can help animals like horses or pigs or cows or alpacas. I mean, you name it, we want to be an all animal rescue, but that takes more time, money, and a lot of land. So we're slowly working towards it. We are getting there. We are excited. We have been moving forward quite a bit, but for now, it is just dogs and cats as we can. Yep.
Yeah. So there's like, what I've noticed is there's kind of like a terminology that goes with certain things with the dog rescue world. And so before I started kind of doing research and becoming interested, I wouldn't have known the scope of it, meaning that there's all kinds of rescues. So there's the dogs that are surrendered. So if I understand properly, it's basically some families or people decide they can't take care of it anymore, or their lifestyle changes, or some just decide, oh, I'm done, and they decide to surrender it and either bring it to an animal shelter or maybe to you.
Correct. Yes, there are different forms of rescue styles for sure, and each rescue can have their own way of doing things. So you may get some rescues that only pull dogs out of shelters. They will not do local surrenders. They will not do and or the other kinds. They just focus on that. Some focus on just surrenders. Some won't do surrenders at all, and some are pretty open to doing quite a bit. So they each have their own way of doing things, which is totally fine, obviously, with us. Us at Raincoast, we do all around. So like we'll do anything from working with shelters. Like later today, I'm actually going up to the shelter up in Cowichan to pull two dogs out of there. We do rescuing as in like surrender rehome. So an owner will call us, like you said, for whatever reason, and we try to find that dog another home. We also do dogs that are just strays, finding on the streets. All sorts. We work with rural communities as well as First Nations communities. So sometimes people just need a little extra help out there as well. Overpopulation is more apparent in rural communities and First Nations areas. Excuse me. So yeah, we definitely open up to all of it. But everyone's got their own way of doing things, their own niche and rescue. So yeah, you're right. There are different styles. Some will do some won't. Here at Raincoast, we honestly try to just keep an open mind for all of it. Doesn't make us any better or anything. We just choose to try to help wherever we can, when we can. And we haven't set any type of parameters in regards to that where we only do a certain type of rescue. Oh no. And then I've flown all around the world to do rescue. I do sponsored partnerships with the SPCA International. So sometimes I'll be in war-torn countries pulling out military dogs for them. And sometimes I'm just flying around joining my friends in other countries with their rescues, traveling around the country, trying to raise awareness to what's going on, show people, and help some animals from there as well. So yeah, we definitely like to keep an open mind here at Raincoast, definitely, and we continue to do so.
What kind of experience does somebody need to be able to get involved in rescuing dogs? Because I feel like I would love to help. And I also feel like I don't even know what I'm doing. I have zero experience. So it's like, how do you decide like, oh, I'm capable of this? Like what is your background that allows you to feel confident or at least, capable?
Well, I mean, definitely when people want to start off, I think just reaching out to a rescue organization to talk with them is good. Um, and then I mean, there's no real school to go to to get this type of
Yeah.
education. You generally try and shadow someone in a rescue or just start to work for a rescue. Now, depending on that rescue, again, if they only do like surrenders, you only get a certain level of experience, but still, it's still experience. So the best way to do is to reach out to a rescue and basically start working with them however you can, if they allow that. I think it's not the easiest world to get into just like right away, but there's so many rescues out there now, and so much opportunity to help that I think that you definitely can gain the experience that someone might be looking for. But obviously with COVID, it's hard because we're not allowing majority of the volunteers to volunteer right now because of restrictions. So there's like me, a couple other members, and maybe like two volunteers out of like, dozens that we can only have working right now due to COVID, unfortunately. So right now it could be a tougher time to try to get into rescue for some people. Um, for me, I got into rescue probably just, I mean, I was always raised around animals as a child through my mom. She worked for the government protecting wildlife for British Columbia here for like 36 years. So it was kind of just installed in me about how to treat animals and take care of them and respect them since I was a child. We always had animals in my home, anything from hamsters, mice, lizards, iguanas, dogs, cats. I mean, you name it. We've had it in my home as a child. So I think that really inspired me. And then just as growing up more, I had a friend that did started doing rescue in Arizona. She lived here for a while. We were best friends, and she moved out there, and I went to go see her sometimes. And she was actually working at animal shelter / vet out there. And it was in Arizona, which is a very tough place for dogs and overpopulation and stuff like that, and shelters. So I guess that was kind of the very first like core, like when I jumped like into going into shelters and helping and driving around out there. And then she ended up moving here not long after and opening up a rescue here. And I became on the board of directors of that rescue. So I think I've been around animals all my life, but my true inspiration to really help in organizations and like really get hands-on involved probably just happened in my early 20s through her and the work in Arizona, and then it transferred over to here, and I've never looked back since then.
I've noticed that you take in a lot of dogs that are injured and that need a lot of help and rehabilitation. And I think there's others that do that, but it seems like maybe something you guys are really good at or something you feel really comfortable with. I mean, some of the stories, it's like they're heartbreaking. You know, you're like,
Yeah, definitely.
they can be heartbreaking because you don't realize what's going on out there until you start following some of these people out there, really out there, seeing what's going
It's
on.
true. It's true.
And
Yeah, it's a
when you're working, like, it sounds like sometimes you have like a network, like you have baby dog trainers that can help you with behavioral problems, or you have vets that are going to help. And how much, for example, like vets, you know, I've seen on other websites, like with animal shelters, maybe a 3-month-old puppy was rescued or needs heart surgery. Like that's going to cost so much. And I think like, is the vet, is the vet giving you a discount or helping a little? It just seems like
well,
I don't feel
yeah.
like, I just kind of want to understand that.
Of course, of course. Well, yeah. So as our rescue, again, like we take in animals from all over. So doesn't matter where they came from, or their ages, or their breeds, or kind of the conditions per se. Now we're still a smaller rescue, even though we definitely do quite a bit. So we definitely seem like a very large rescue, and maybe in the aspect of helping, we are, but in the aspect of monetary and like the amount of members on a team and like stuff like that, facilities, we're kind of still on the smaller end. Like I said, we're working towards that. But yeah, I mean we definitely lately have taken in a lot of medical case dogs. We do take in medical case dogs. We, yeah, definitely because we went back out to Saskatchewan and helped rescue a lot of dogs out there. And I think we took in 9 or 10 on that one rescue. And I think over half of them had serious medical needs. So it can definitely be difficult with that. Luckily, we don't get a lot of money donated constantly, but when we do ask the community for help for these injured animals, they are so generous to us here and even around the world where we have friends that follow Raincoast, but generally in British Columbia and Canada and like just beginning of the States there, we have a lot of people that follow us and they're very generous when we do have that an animal needing help, such as Toby recently, we had get his leg amputated. That's a big thing, stuff like that. You know, there's other types of surgeries, obviously, that are needed sometimes. Sometimes you get dogs that are already sick, so they need medical care. So we definitely do help a lot of medical animals. I don't know, maybe more than others. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I mean, I think a lot help dogs regardless, but you do have to be careful taking medical cases because yes, you can help raise money for them, but also things can get really difficult fast and a little out of hand as far as like the money needed or the treatments needed. So like anything, I think you want to just be careful, and we always want to try to help. It's so hard saying no. Like saying no to an injured animal or hurt animal is like impossible. But you know, if we can't, to the extent, we'll work with another rescue or get another organization on board so we can work together as a team to help. So definitely don't like to say no, but we still need to make sure we do things where we're not completely overwhelming ourselves. I mean, it's rescue, so you obviously feel overwhelmed at times, there's no doubt, but you know, you still have to do things where you kind of stay in control, of course. So that's why we'll reach out for help to other rescues. We do work with other rescues. It's not common in rescue, unfortunately. I wish it was more so, but I think it's getting better these days where rescuers are, unfortunately, there is a lot of drama in rescue sometimes where they don't want to work together, but there are a lot now that are opening up and realizing obviously we're only going to benefit the animals more if we come together as a team and work together. So I think that's definitely huge and starting to happen more, which is really nice. We have tons of vets we use all over the place, but we definitely have very specific ones that we start with, obviously, that we work with constantly. They are very kind to us. They do offer us discounts, so we're very lucky. It's still a very expensive place to get vetting
It
regardless of
seems like it,
discounts,
yeah.
but we're still very lucky and we're very proud and honored to work with them, all over Victoria, into Vancouver, into Montreal, into Lebanon, I mean, we have vets that we've used or met and become stayed friends with or continue to work and are friends with all over the place, to be honest. Once you kind of find a good solid vet that you trust and you feel good about, it's kind of like a family doctor. I think you just
Yeah.
don't really want to step away from that. You know what I mean? It's a good feeling. So we try to stick with them, and because they're a team with us, so if you work
Yeah.
together, you can benefit each other that way. So that's pretty huge. We have a few companies like Bosley's Pet Food Stores that'll help us. Well, they'll donate us returns or any bags that are ripped. They help letting our supporters drop off items that they have from maybe their animals they no longer need for us to use. So we got a lot of support there as well from stuff like that. So yeah, we definitely have specific places that we work with, as well as shelters and people and other things and different communities. But we always try to open up to other ones as well. I think the more connections and kind of friendships that you make, the better. And anything, it's just networking, right? So then you
Yeah.
can potentially help more animals and stuff like that. So yeah, we definitely have all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely need your team of people to rely on. You can't, yeah, no one can do everything
It's
on their
not a
own.
one-man show. I mean, a lot of people may
Yeah.
see my face in rescue, but there's so much that happens behind. Like, Raincoast is everyone from yourself just doing stuff like this, to fosters, to adopters, to people who just share our posts, to our volunteers, to everyone who reaches out to us or just talks to other people about us. I mean, without them, we would be nothing. We would just be people with a whole bunch of dogs with nowhere to go.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when I've like talked to different people that are environmentalists or activists or whatever, what I find interesting is we need all types of people to make our world work, you know? And so sometimes you have extremists, but we kind of need extremists because otherwise we're not going to notice anything, or, you know, like it's
Yep.
really
Yep.
helping the balance. So I have noticed some people can be very extreme or judgmental or opinionated from the outside. That's how it would look. But I've
Oh,
also
yes.
met people that are very soft and non-judgmental and super open-minded. And I find it so interesting because there's so many causes out there right now. So where do you feel like, how do you feel about breeders? And then, because I was thinking like for a while, yeah, because for a while I was like,
Trying to get me in trouble here, aren't you?
no, because I'll give you
I
an
know, I
out,
know.
because you
No,
have
no, no,
like,
it's okay. I'm more than open to talk
so
about
you
any of
have
this, to be honest.
breeders,
I'll be
right?
honest. Yep.
You have breeders that are, I would say, ethical in the sense that they are really doing the best that you can do as a breeder, right? And then you
Okay.
have breeders that are just trying to get a quick profit and maybe aren't doing their due diligence and are maybe breeding and they don't really know what's going on, the medical history or the behavior or
Yep.
any of the things you should know. So
Correct.
you
Yeah.
have like the top, and then you have puppy mills, right? And then so you have all these different types of breeders, and then you have adopt people, organizations that adopt, rescue, and then, you know, try to
Yeah.
help dogs that way. So like, tell us how
What
you feel
about those different areas, those different specific areas of breeding and breeding
yeah,
in general? Okay.
yes,
Yeah, no problem. So yes, I mean, as a rescuer, I obviously will always advocate for adoption. That's just what we do. Some rescuers definitely feel very strongly against all breeding of all sorts and that none should be done at all. Some are kind of like, okay, well, there's obviously going to be some breeding out there as long as there's the breeders that are treating these animals well with love and respect and doing it in a healthy, safe, kind of ethical, way, then perhaps, they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then obviously there's your backyard breeders, which is just your everyday person trying to kind of breed their dog for money or for fun or because they think it's cute. And then you have these puppy mills, which are just the worst of the worst. They literally look at them as nothing, as not even living beings, as not even animals with emotions or anything with emotions. They're just a dollar sign, and they could care less about how they're raised or treated when they're raised, or if they even make it half the time. They just try to get them to a certain age and pawn them off as fast as possible, and they're just forced to be bred and live and suffer in horrific conditions that some people may never even truly know or understand. I mean, when you've seen it, it's just something you can't undo in your mind, to be honest with you. Okay. So for me, as far as breeding, like I said, I, I'm always going to advocate for adoption, but I have to keep an open mind, and I like to keep the dialect open with people to have these conversations and go back and forth. I think it's kind of important and educating as well. So But the thing is about these, let's call them ethical breeders, is you probably out of 100 breeders in general, whether puppy mills, backyard breeders, or ethical, you probably have 5, say out of every 100, that are maybe ethical. So they take their dogs to the vet to get the x-rays done on the hips. They check for genetic diseases that can be passed down or whatever, stuff like that, that the other dogs are prone to getting, say hip dysplasia or heart murmurs or heart disease or other type of, diseases or genetic mutations that can happen. So for me, I think the breeders that are up there, the very, very rare few that are left, I'm not completely against per se, because at least they're taking care of their dogs. They're loving them. They'll limit to maybe 1 or 2 litters. Then they'll spay. They'll make sure that all the people come meet the parents, meet the dogs, see their house, where they're raised. They'll start with contracts way before they even take the dog. The dog has to be fixed. It can't be rebred. If it ever has to be given up, it has to come back to the breeder. That, I mean, I need to keep an open mind here, right? So that I'm not just going to be, completely condemning and calling them out and acting like, they're just treating the animals, like nothing, like garbage. So again, so that part of me has to stay open-minded for them. I would rather work with those breeders to shut down the other breeders. So get on board with them because they love their animals. We love the animals. And we're trying to shut down the ones that treat them like nothing and just abuse them and sell them for profits. And then they go into people's homes sick, or they end up passing away within a year. It's just no one wins. It's heartbreaking. So for me, I guess the select few I'd rather work with to advocate against the bad ones that just condemn them all, because, they may actually truly love their dogs. But I guess a lot of people don't understand real overpopulation. We don't have it so much here. It is here, don't get me wrong, in more rural communities. But if you've ever traveled around the world, even Greece and Europe or anywhere, you can just walk around the streets and they're everywhere. They are
Yeah.
everywhere and they're suffering. Mexico, I mean, you name it, Asia, Thailand, Indonesia. I mean, there's lots of places. It, it's kind of opens up your perspective. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, you shouldn't just bash breeding, and breeding is this and then. But like, I don't think those people, even some of those breeders, have truly ever understood what's happening in other parts of the world with overpopulation, and why we kind of advocate for spaying and neutering and
Oh,
for
yeah.
rescuing and for adopting first. But at the same time, I understand sometimes if you want a specific type of dog, say it's not always so easy to find and rescue. I guarantee you can find any dog, purebred or not, in rescue if you look hard enough. But some people don't want to wait a year or 6 months. So, I understand all aspects of that. But when you go to benefit backyard breeders and puppy mills, that's where I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Regardless of, I know it's hard if you haven't fought one for a rescue, you've been trying for a year through rescues, you're disheartened, you're broken down, you're frustrated with rescues. I get it. I do. Because we can only take in so many dogs too. We're private. We don't get millions in funding or have all this. So sometimes it's frustrating that people say, well, that's enough. I just saw this puppy online. I'm going to get it. They show up. They don't really want to know probably where the dog came from, because they probably already have a bad feeling. But they see this sweet little being in front of them, and they finally have the opportunity to have a dog of their own, and they just hand over the money and go. I get it, but at the same time, we can't do stuff like that. People have to understand that's like, you're buying something else and you're benefiting a really horrific act, whatever it may be. I don't want to get too graphic here, but abuse or child trafficking or something, you wouldn't want your money going towards that, regardless of what you're buying, right? So we have to be conscious about that stuff. So for me, definitely against backyard breeding, against puppy mills, always. It's despicable the way they treat their animals. The way they look at them. Oh my goodness, it's horrific. And we need to shut them down. And it's massive tax evasion, to be honest with you. There's millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars being earned off these animals, and nothing's being paid in taxes. There's nothing logistically happening. These people are just going crazy with it. And really, there's really no breeding regulations here. They've been passed by the liberals actually quite a while ago, a few years ago, where we actually had these regulations where, like, you might have to have inspections done, you have to buy licenses, to try to deter the bad ones and keep the good ones going. And the NDPs have just never enacted it. So it passed the legislation under the liberals, but we've just never have it enacted, and we're pushing for that. But NDP's been pretty hard-walled on that. And then obviously you have COVID, so everything's taken a back burner now, I think, to COVID in general. No matter you're fighting for animal rights, human rights, civil rights, whether you're fighting for, LGBTQ rights, it's all kind of taken. Even the epidemic with overdoses has taken a back seat right now. So it's tough, definitely. Anyways, sorry, I guess I'm rambling. But
No, it
yeah,
just seems like,
back to that. It's
yeah.
just, yeah, there's more. honestly, 98% of breeders out there are bad breeders. They're not taking proper care of their animals, or just downright horrific. So we hope people would educate themselves. If you're not finding one through a rescue and you're going to a breeder, make sure you can meet the mom and dad. Make sure you can see where they actually live. Make sure you can go see them multiple times. Make sure you can see their vet records clearing them of genetic disease or hip dysplasia, stuff like that, or anything like that. Make sure that this vet has shown papers that they're signed off on. You know what I mean? Hopefully they're part of a registered kennel club, but that doesn't always make them good breeders. It doesn't. They don't do inspections. So you're
Yeah.
just trying to look for these key points. The SPCA has it on their website too, to look for these key things that if you have to go to a breeder and that's what you're doing, make sure you know where you're getting it from. Because as much as you just want to maybe get that animal out anyways, you're like, oh, well, it was in a bad place, so I paid the money. I get it, because you want to get the animal out. So I think you did a good thing. But then you just gave them $1,000 to benefit towards their puppy mill, which doesn't go towards the dogs. That just went into their pocket. But that just makes them go, oh my God, like we're able to sell these for $1,000 or $2,000 a piece, and people don't seem to care and get away with it. Let's just keep rolling with this. You know, they're making 30 grand every 3 months or more. They could have 6 females running, and they could be making literally $250,000 every few months. It's crazy. People have no idea how much the industry actually is, and the government doesn't either, because if they truly did, the one way to shut them down would be through that, tax evasion. Because if you can't convince them to care about the animals, which could be harder in Parliament, you can convince them. When you talk about evading taxes here in Canada, the CRA, that is one thing they take very seriously. So that's kind of an angle I think that we're trying to project in helping take care of these dogs that shut down these puppy mills more, is the tax evasion part, not always just the cruelty. Because to be honest with you, we do not have the best government here when it comes to caring about animal cruelty at all,
Right.
whatsoever, or judges or crown councils. I mean, my God, it's actually downright appalling,
It sounds
to be
appalling,
honest.
and I think the best route is really just like you said, it's just like help people educate themselves, create that
Right.
awareness, and
Education is key.
just like, can you throw out some statistics? Because I feel like you're talking about developing countries having this huge surplus, but it sounds like when I've read statistics, just in North America alone, it sounds like 1.2 million are euthanized a year or something crazy.
Yeah, you'll get different statistics from all over. I mean, statistic companies can be hired to favor one way or another, to be honest with you. So when you're reading statistics, and then was it a study done for 1 month on like 60 dogs, or was it done for like 5 years on like 10,000 dogs? You know what I mean? So I think no matter where you look at, you need to look on how they did their studies as well. I think that plays a huge part. Anyone can favor any which way, to be honest.
Yeah.
Government does it all the time. They hire these outside companies, and they'll get these statistics, and they'll say, well, if they don't match our findings or what we want it to match, then you're going to keep it hush hush. And those are sealed documents. So I think it would kind of be the same. It's hard to tell you right now. I don't have all the links and stuff in front of me, but I would say, honestly, in my experience, I would say, yeah, you take, say, 10 breeders. I would say 1 in every 10, or like even 5 in every 100, or say 10 in every 100 are actual breeders that probably really do care about their dogs and animals or cats and ethically breed them, and would only do maybe 2 litters and maybe like once every 2 years, and then stop, and then all the contracts and stuff. Everyone else, oh no, because they can continue to get away with it. There's been no repercussions for these people. So if you can continue to break the law or do something that's horrific and you can get away with it and make the type of money that you can make, then human beings will continue to do it. I mean, they're not being properly prosecuted or convicted for creating these heinous crimes, whether it just be the abuse or whether it be other forms of it too, so like through breeding. So for us, I think there's no deterrent. So that's why I think it's becoming more and more apparent that it's just going out of hand, that more and more people are doing it, because not only is it tougher to make money these days or whatever, but it's so easy for them because they can just keep these dogs locked up, breed them, pin them down, get the male on top, and then basically just wait for them to have babies and let the mother do most of the work, and maybe bring in some kibble once in a while. Even if that, like, some of them are it's just horrific. But to be honest with you, statistics, majority of the time, whenever you go to not adopt a dog, get a dog from a breeder, it's probably been bred immorally, unethically,
Yeah.
100%. That being said too, though, when you go get a dog from a rescue, because I don't want to sit here just ousting all breeders in this, I want to bring light to researcher rescues too. Honestly, ask questions, look into them. If they're not willing to answer all your questions and make you feel confident, then maybe don't choose that rescue, for whatever reason. If you don't like the way that my rescue, Raincoast, works, please don't feel free to choose us. Remember, you have this choice. It's up to you to make that choice, whether you're buying from a breeder or rescuing from a rescue. Because
Yeah.
believe you me, there are rescues out there that are not. There's rescues out there that literally are, whether they're registered as society or registered charity or not, they could still be doing good work, but they don't care. I mean, there's no government body over rescues. I could tell you that I have a really friendly dog right now, Amy, and you say, bring it over, I would like to adopt. And I tell you all the good things and send you pictures. You've never met it though. And then I bring it over and you have another dog and I leave it there. And, you know, a couple hours later, all of a sudden the dog's trying to hurt your dog or it's way out of hand and you're calling me. I could have just taken your money, ignored you, and never have to answer your phone call again. And there's nothing that you can do about it rather than try to civilly sue me. There's no governing body. The SPCA is not really going to come to your door. They might call on someone's behalf, but there's really nothing that they can do legally, which is really scary actually. So whenever you're going to a breeder especially or a rescue, just please do your research, do your due diligence. As excited as you are to get a dog or frustrated that you haven't been able to get one, hang in there, because where you make that choice, where you spend your money, I think whether it be with an animal or any product in the world, plays a huge part where you
Yeah.
buy your items, right? You know,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
things. Yeah,
totally.
yeah,
So
yeah.
let's
So it kind of trickles down
talk
the
like
line.
you're when you're rescuing dogs, and sometimes you know you're going to have people call and then you decide if it's a fit or not, and you try to get a background on the family's lifestyle and their energy level and things like that. And I'd like to know a little bit more about that. Like
For
also
sure. Like the process.
the pro no, not the process, more like say you have a super high energy dog, like it's a
Yep,
dog that it needs to be walked a ton, it has a lot of energy, and
yep,
so you're trying to match it with the family, right?
yep.
And so what I think is interesting is now throwing COVID, right? A lot of people I've noticed want dogs during COVID, like a ton, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely. Oh yeah.
what's going to happen to all these dogs when people
That's
go back to work?
that's a very good question, Amy. That's a very good question and a very good question on for a topic that's very popular right now. So yeah, I agree with you. It's almost like when people get surprise pets for their birthday or Christmas. You see a lot of returns. You see a lot of people. It's really cute at first. Oh my God, yeah, I got a dog. And then reality sets in over a week, two, three, a month. The work you have to put in, the change in your lifestyle, the adjustment. It can add more stress. It can add more joy. But yeah, I find it can disrupt a life in both ways, in good ways. I don't want to say negative way, but yeah. So I think a lot of them are going to be coming back. So I think a lot of rescues have to take more due diligence more than ever. I think our screening has to be more thorough than ever. It should always be thorough, but like you're really now trying to like read through the lines. Like, okay, you're both home for COVID. You both work from home now. I think questions need to be asked like when COVID's not necessarily over, but you know when it slows down or regulations in each country policies open up more, what then happens to you? Are you continuing to work from home? Do you both go back to work? If you both do go back to work, what's your plan for your dog then? Are you going to do doggy daycare? Maybe the dog's not so good with other dogs, so you can't. Are you going to have a friend or someone come over that just walks the dog? There needs to be plans set in place. So these are definitely questions that should be asked by rescues that we're asking a lot right now as well, because everyone's at home and they're bored or they want something to do and they want to get a dog. But then, like you said, reality comes back where we might go back full time in, and then people realize they don't have that time. So then they're like, oh, well, now they have to give up the dog. They never should have gotten one in the first place. You know, this is a living being. It should be taken very seriously when you want to take it on into your life. So for those people, sometimes, even when I mention that, they're like, oh, you know, we're just trying to do something or kind of wanted something to fill the void. I said, well, then
Yeah.
foster. Don't adopt, just foster.
Yeah.
It's free. We supply everything. You can have fun with the dog, still go out and do all the things you want to do, but with all the responsibility of ownership and that. So fostering is a great alternative. But like you said, with everyone wanting to adopt these days, some rescues just are just putting them into homes because they can, and they're going to have a lot of returns. Or the
They
rescues
are.
that don't take back their dogs, which they always should. But if they don't, then they're going to end up on Craigslist, bouncing from home to home,
Yeah.
hopefully still finding a good home, not ending up in a bad one that's going to use it for breeding or going to use it for dog fighting, or it's just going to mistreat it or neglect it or just not pay attention to it, or they're going to end up dropping them off at shelters. So shelter intake might just float, like the huge uprise in shelter intakes and stuff like that. That is a huge concern. It is every year, even with Christmas and people's birthdays, to be honest with you. And it happens. So we try to educate to remember that, like during Christmas, if we get puppies, we're like, we won't adopt it unless everyone in the family knows. I'm sorry. We're
Yeah.
not going to, unless it's like their, 6-year-old necessarily, but like the parents both have to know. If you want to get your girlfriend a puppy for Christmas, I'm sorry, as much as you might want to surprise her, she has to know first. She has to be on board. We have to understand that you're actually ready for a dog, and this isn't just some decision you thought would be cute, because again, they start to grow up, they pee and poo, they whine, and then you start having to train right away, and people then get overwhelmed and then go, oh, we made a mistake, or God forbid they break up and then they can't take it. So we just make sure we really try to be really persistent at people to make sure that even during COVID, that they understand what's going on and what's still needed, and that this isn't just a temporary thing for a few months until they go back to work. So you kind of got to read between the lines. I mean, you get these applications, you kind of grade them like, say, a teacher would grade a test in school. You give your little point forms, your notes, you look at if they're looking into that one dog, multiple dogs, or just any dog at that time, or one that will come up. So if it's for a specific dog, obviously I got to look at that dog's needs, what I know about that dog, and then what these people have. I then need to call them and go over all that again and get questions, and they can answer me questions. Of course, it's important that they ask as many questions as they can too to me, and then we work together. And then if we still feel like it might be a good fit, we'll move forward with a meeting. If after the meeting we want to do another one, we can. If after that meeting it feels like, oh wow, like this is going really well, like this seems like it would be a good fit, we could start the trial period, which is the foster to adopt with us. A lot of organizations have this, where we'll give like a 2-week trial, or 3-week, or 4-week, or 1 week, depending on the rescue. We'll supply them the items that they need for that time, and keep in touch with them each day or so, and then just work together as a team to see how it works out. That way they don't feel misled. If they can't say, oh, we didn't know about this, because they're having the time with the dog. And we're able to see too that it looked good on paper, but now that the dog's in their home, it's actually not working out as well as we both had hoped, or whatever one side had hoped. So we're able to then just have that conversation and saying, okay, we don't think this is the right fit. They haven't adopted, their money's not permanently ours or anything, like held or like kept. At that point they get their deposit back. They can return the dog with the item. They don't feel bad about like giving up or failing. And we could try with another dog. As long as someone tries their best with that dog, to their wholeheartedly best, we'll always work with them again.
That's
If it fails
great.
in
Yeah.
if it fails in the first night because the dog peed on the floor because it was confused, I mean, it's hard to then feel like that person's ready to move forward with any dog if you can't even accept a pee on the floor, So we kind of read through the line. So I think rescues that have that process, they really flourish with finding the right homes. Not that the ones that adopt on the spot can't. I think just anything, the more due diligence that you take is probably the better outcomes that you'll have, right, through these
Yeah.
processes. And it's really just what's best for the dog too. So that's ultimately always is going to be what's best for the animal, not what's best for the human. And that can upset people for sure, because we're here for the animals, but we also want to help the humans. But when it comes down to it, I'm sorry, ultimately it's always what's best for the animal. And you can
Yeah.
hate me all you want, you can get upset at me, you can scream at me, you can bad talk the rescue. People do all the time. They get upset. It's human nature to, when you don't get your way, to get upset. I get it, but I'm
But
sorry,
like, give
it's
me an
just
example, like matching, for example, because I think, like, for example, we really want to adopt, and then I told you, like, we're renting a house, and for whatever reason, the owners are like, no, we don't want you to have a dog. But I'm still looking. I'm still like, the day we have a
yeah.
home, we'll do it,
Yep.
because this has been something we've wanted, and now we were living in a big city, now we're not in a big city,
Yep.
and now it makes sense. It did not make sense before. I was working outside of the house most of the day.
Yep.
Doesn't make sense to me to do that.
Yep.
Even though people are like, oh, you should get a dog, how could you not have a dog? And I'm thinking, because I can't treat the dog the way I'd like to. Like,
Your
it's so
lifestyle
important.
may not match up
There's
to
no
right now
way
at the
I would
time.
do
Yeah.
that. Like, how could I
I,
do that, right? But like,
yeah.
what I'm wondering is, say there's a dog that comes up and it's considered high energy. what
Mhm.
what would a good day for that dog be for a family? Like, what would the
Well,
family need to do so that dog is actually getting what it needs?
well, it depends on the high energy that you're looking at too, and if it could be a high energy border collie, but it's reactive to other dogs. So I'm going to tell you a few different ways. If that's the case, then it might alter than another one. If you just have a fairly friendly dog with other dogs and it's fairly comfortable with people, it depends too. Like if you just got that dog from us, I'm definitely not going to tell you just go to a beach and let it off leash, because it could just run away. It could distract it. Not that you don't want to do that. And I know people are eager. They get a dog and all they want is those movie moments right away. Like, I want to run on the beach with my dog and it'd be the perfect, and throw the stick in the ocean and it always comes back and it always listens. And whenever it meets a dog, it's always perfect. And it's like, well, there's that and there's life. Not that you can't get there, not that you can't have a dog reach that point in some point. Some dogs may not, just like humans. Some may be really social. They can pretty much meet anyone and be comfortable. Some may not. So for that being said, with the family, If you had just a fairly well-rounded dog, I would say, maybe go to a nice fenced-in baseball diamond and let it go and play frisbee with the kids and let them run around, or like a ball or something. Of course, if you have kids and you have a ball, does the dog possess over a ball? Does it get, then maybe don't bring a ball. Maybe you're just running around. You know what I mean? Maybe you're just chasing. Maybe it's just a stick. It really depends. Like, seriously, I could get into it. The logistics can become so specific or so not. So
Yeah.
it depends. A high energy dog, um, again, is it a working dog? So is the energy wanting to be worked out with tasks and work and like giving it a job to do? Or is it just a high energy dog where it's just running around wanting to have fun, where you can just, like I
Yeah.
said,
Like, yeah,
go to,
that's, I want to know that. Like, give me an example of how you can
so
have a balanced, healthy working dog. Because we did have one growing up and it did not have important tasks and it was neurotic. I'll let you know
yeah,
that. Like,
so
it was
say
just,
it's from a working line. So even a working breed may not always have that particular genetics at that time. You could have a lineage of hunting dogs 5 generations strong, and each litter will still produce dogs that are not that good at hunting, at what they're bred to do. So they'll either become pets in someone else's home, or God forbid, I don't want to tell you what actually sometimes happens, but it's not good. But so that being said, it really depends. So if you have like a cattle dog, let's say, and it's from a farm and a herding line, and it's pretty strong genetics, you want to give a task where you want it to probably be on a farm. You probably want to have animals that need help getting wrangled up to go into different pens and working like that. Or if you have a healer, maybe you want to do agility training where, you run throughout the course, where it goes underneath, over top, through the rings, through the poles, other things like that. Or you do scent training where like you're placing different objects around the yard or your house or wherever you are, and you're getting the dog to find that object. And when they do, they get rewarded. So you're doing scent training, you're giving them a task, and when they get it, you're happy, they're thrilled, you're giving them a job to do. There's guardian breeds. Like I have Teddy, my Turkish Kangol mix. He'll sit outside all day just watching the world, looking over to make sure the chickens are okay, the ducks are okay, the goats are okay, that I don't have cougars rolling up on the property, I don't have bears or eagles going after them. That's his job. He's a guardian. He's still a sweet boy. He lives inside. He's a family dog, but he's pretty keen to those genetics since I adopted him many years ago. So that's just kind of what's in him. So I guess it depends on the dog you're looking at. If you just have a golden retriever that's all wound up and wants to have fun, you know what I mean? Go to a nice park, you know what I mean, and play. If it is that friendly, you can go to a dog park. I don't really like dog parks that much because there's usually a lot of people there and there's great dogs there, but people don't always understand what dogs are suitable for those parks or what behavior is suitable. So your dog's friendly, but it's jumping all over my dog's back. My dog's now starting to get agitated. You're not seeing this behavior, or you are, and you're still not doing anything about it. Eventually something's going to happen. My dog might not bite yours, but it's probably going to snap at your dog to tell it to stop because I never stepped in, the owner never stepped in, so the dogs took it upon themselves to settle it, which is never the best idea, to be honest. You want to be observant. But that being said, you can go to dog parks if you're comfortable there. Some people aren't. Fenced in baseball diamonds, big backyards, the beach. Depends if your dog has recall too, you know what I mean? But you really want to get your dog out there for just the amount of exercise. Go on trails, go on hikes in shaded areas, like burn your dog out that way. And that's if your dog's just an all around, just energetic, happy, friendly dog that's just that general energy of just whatever. But like I said, you got a border collie or a healer, or say a Portuguese water dog that we have right now that's very rare in rescue. They love to swim. So we're trying to get her in the swim training. We're trying to get her into that. They need to be constantly exercised. If they don't, they just become neurotic in the house. They'll bark. They'll just nonstop leave you alone. They could become destructive. And then that could lead to behaviors where they start to act negatively because they're so worked up that they start to lash out at other dogs because they're just pent up. There's just frustration there, and they're on leash and they're just like, ah. Or if you take a dog for a good run or something and then come back and do training, it's usually the best way to do it too. And if you don't, you'll probably start to lose control a bit. You know what I mean? It's pretty rare you'll get a dog that you just get and you didn't do much training and it just worked out to be a great, well-rounded dog. Like the expectations of some people, I think they think dogs are robots. I think they think dogs should be pre-programmed. I get apps, I get it. You show me specifics you want in a dog, totally understand. But some of them are like wild. Like, I want an energetic dog, but also calm in the house. I want a dog that does this, but also does this, and then this, and then this. And I'm like, like, that's something you're going to have to put in yourself. Those are pretty specific needs that you're going to have to train in. And you can't just expect that to be there right away. If we're a rescue, we might start with some training or whatever, but still, you need to finish off with yourself with that too, as well. I mean, it's like adopting a child. You could have it partially raised, but still you need to install your own ethics and morals and training and love and care and time for that to be raised the way that you want it to be raised. You know what I mean? The dog that you want, or the child that you're hoping to want, how to act. So I think it's kind of the same with that. But yeah, working dogs, you definitely need to give them more tasks, jobs, and things to do. But just energetic, happy dogs, which is generally most dogs between puppy and probably 2.5 years old, 3 years old, so until they mature, yeah, you need to get them out there and you need to exercise them definitely in that way. But each dog could have different exercise needs. So I guess it's just really individual to that dog, is what I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I was
Sorry,
wondering about that.
quite a
No, it's
bit.
good.
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering, because sometimes you see that like medium energy or high level energy or working dog, and you're like, does that mean if I'm not on a farm, it won't be happy? Or, um,
Not necessarily. I think it's just how you install those exercise techniques that you use. Now, obviously, sometimes people just see a healer and they want it because it's this beautiful looking dog, but they have no idea, understand what the needs are of that animal. And that's the thing. I think people need to stop just taking a dog at a look and start actually researching at those dogs' needs and what they generally need and the care they need, or the grooming that they need, or like the type of training that they need, or the type of environment that they need. Most people don't. They just see it. Sometimes it's like a car. You just see this pretty car and you want it, but you have no
yeah,
idea how to rotate tires, do an oil change. You have no idea how this thing may need this type of work or this type of driving, or what to be careful in, or you know what I mean? So I think people
absolutely.
need to slow down, and as excited as they are, they need to slow down and really educate themselves on what they're looking into getting, especially when it comes to a living being like an animal or a dog or a cat, and research that and really look for something that's more for their lifestyle. I think that's one of the biggest problems right now, and why a lot of dogs are taken and given up and
Yeah,
bounced around, is because they're buying something they shouldn't be able to get. And how are they really getting that? If these breeders are just allowing them to have it without doing their screening, that's a problem. If us rescues are allowing to do that without the screening, that's a problem. But that being said, if you've never owned a border collie and you want one, you got to start somewhere. But that being
yeah,
said, you still need the right environment and you need to do the research that you're ready to take one on. You may not have the education with a border collie yet, but you need to educate yourself on what they may and will need and prepare yourself for what's going to come. You know what I mean? So for me, I guess it's just all about education, especially. And then you could have Great Danes. Most people, one of the biggest dogs in the world, and they think, oh man, they need the most space. You'd be surprised. They actually do really well in condos. They're actually not pretty well fitted for like smaller spaces, but they still need to get outside and stimulated and exercised. But that would kind of surprise people, you wouldn't see that as often maybe, or think that, but it's true. They do fairly well in some smaller spaces, but like any animal, regardless, they need to get outside. You could own a mansion, you could have 100 acres, but you only let your dog on there. So the second you take your dog into actual public or a city environment, it could be freaking out. And that's where it means, like, to me, it's not always the environment in which you live in. It does play a part. It's what you're going to do to get that dog out there, to give it the stimulation, exercise, and care that it needs. And mansion or condo, you need to get outside, you need to exercise your dog, you need to show your dog around so it's desensitized to cars, people, noises, and work at that. And I think that's probably most important out of anything. It's just more the humans taking that into consideration when they are buying, adopting, getting an animal.
those are great tips because I think what shocked me the most is, well, I know that there's the abuse and not correctly taking care of dogs from a lot of breeders, puppy mills, and all that. I didn't realize there was such a surplus, which
Oh,
I'm
cool.
completely aware of now. So, like, yeah, I think of the way they're the treatment, but I also think of the surplus, and I think, why would I even buy
Yeah, it's
a
it's
dog
it's
that's
true.
bred? So there's that people need to understand, and then also, what shocked me the most. So the abuse for sure shocks me. Like, I don't get it. Like, I can't figure it out. Like, I just think it's so heartbreaking. And
I
some of
don't
those
think you will
stories are
though.
hard,
To
really
Yeah,
hard.
I tell people you don't. What I tell people when they ask me, like, how do you deal with this? How do you understand it all? And I'm like, I don't, because when somebody does something like animal abuse or something horrific like that, there's no logic to it. So you might sit there for days just absolutely just destroying your mind on trying to wrap your head around how someone could beat that dog to death, let's say, or something horrible, and you're like freaking out. But don't, because there's no logic. You will never find logic to it. You'll never actually be able to wrap your head around why someone did that.
Yeah,
It's a sickness. It's something that's not normal. It's something
yeah,
that's very dangerous to have in a human being to do that. I think all communities, I think all governments need to take into consideration how serious that truly is. And if you look at statistics, majority of the world's serial killers all started off with juvenile records of hurting animals.
Ugh.
It only flourishes from there. Same with if you talk to psychologists or whatever it is, a psychiatrist. Some people that start by, I hate to kind of get into this subject, it's a darker subject, but abusing people, they'll start off with minor bits of abuse, and as they get away with it, they empower themselves, right? They feel like empowered, you know what I mean? And like now they start to do it, and it becomes worse and worse. It's kind of like some like serial killers, they end up just flourishing until they get busted, because it's like a rush for them, or a sense of power, kind of like someone having a gun too. And it's a very disturbed sickness that these people will generally go on to hurting people for sure, if they don't already. So I think we definitely need to look at that as a way more serious case. I think those people definitely need to be considered for serious jail time and evaluation, psychiatric
Absolutely.
evaluation. And then if they decide to get better or get treatment, that's fine. But we can't just expect everyone to be able to be treated, and rehabbed. That's, I think, the Canadian jail system is where we're broken. We think everyone should be rehabilitated and everyone can be. And I'm not saying people can't be, but I'm saying you can only rehabilitate yourself if you want to be. Just like with addictions, you can want your family could want all you want. You could go into a rehabilitation center, but if you're not ready, if you're not willing to do so, it's not going to happen. The problem with animal abusers is they don't really acknowledge this, so they won't be like, I am an abuser, it's horrible, and I need to get better. Generally, it's just such a sickness that's far gone that it can only maybe be managed by, oh man, it's so hard. Like whether it be
Yeah.
medications or jail time or probation or whatever, it's very deep and disturbing. People who hurt animals, and it only gets worse and it goes into humans. And can you ever really rehabilitate those people? I'm not sure. I'm not going to speculate now on that, but I'm just saying that we need to be stricter on it, because the only way for people to get better is they kind of have to want it themselves too. And if they don't want it or don't care about it, they can tell you what they want. And for me, I just see animal abuse are let loose after let loose after let loose in this country with nothing, even though we have the laws. We have the laws to put them in jail. We really do. We actually have fairly strict laws to put them in prison for X amount of time. We just don't have one judge or one Crown Council member that's willing to actually go through with it,
That's
ever.
crazy. I was reading that you posted something about that, and I thought, why, And so,
That's a good question. They say it's past precedence. Why? Well, we
right. I
can't.
think the whole
If we
system's set up on that, though. That's
It's
why.
broken system like that. We need a Crown Council or a judge to then jump ahead, kind of like with the fentanyl crisis. No one is really getting charged with that stuff too seriously. And then the epidemic came, and then all of a sudden guys are going away for 10 years for fentanyl, or 14 years, more than you'd even get for a murder in Canada. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, it
for
doesn't
me,
make
I
sense.
think we just need one judge and one Crown Council to really take that leap of faith and actually put someone away for 2 or 3 years for animal abuse, and set that example, so then
Yeah,
other lawyers can use that case, like,
exactly.
not whatever 2020 Victoria, BC, Gordon versus, the government of BC, or SPCA versus Gordon. We have this case to go off of. We don't have that now. Every single one is nothing. And then the judge looks at it and goes, But for me, it's time we step it up.
It
There's
is
there's
time.
so much statistics and so much education and so much research done on this and how serious it is. The government just fails to acknowledge it. It's very frustrating for us advocates. A lot of people think, oh, what can we do? It's the SPCA or it's this or that. No, it's actually, in the long run, it's the Crown and the judges that aren't doing their jobs properly to ensure the safety of the public and safety of the animals that are part of our homes and communities, part of our families. And it's beyond frustrating, to be honest with you. I just,
Yeah, I think the more people become aware of it, and there's just more momentum behind it, I think there will be at one point something that happens. And
as you know, we're doing rallies now a lot. We'll see other advocacy groups, our group with other groups, United for Paws, Raincoast, other ones, Mission Pausville, Manitoba. I mean, you got so many groups in Quebec, Montreal, all across, NBSL Manitoba, NBSL Winnipeg, Justice for Bullies in Alberta, all these amazing organizations and more. I'm not mentioning some, of course, that are pushing towards this constantly and constantly and
yeah,
constantly. And even people, the public, I mean, when we post about it on our page, you yourself can probably see how disturbed and upset people are.
it's
And
disturbing. It's super
it
disturbing.
is.
And I think what's so hard is for people that are sensitive to stuff like that, like you can slowly educate yourself, but if you're somebody very sensitive at one point, you want to you don't want to hear about it because it's so painful sometimes to
Yeah, a lot of people get upset at
accept.
us because we post it. They're like, why do you
Yeah,
post this stuff? And I'm like, I'm not going to sit there all day and posting cruelty. That's just overwhelming for anyone. Nobody can see that all day. I don't want to put that in someone's mind all day either. But I need to still raise awareness, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, the awareness is cruelty. And it's not my fault. I'm not the one causing it. But in
Yeah.
order to make true change in this world, we need society to see what's going on and acknowledge it. And some people get upset at you for that, but I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not going to hide the truth. It's the truth. I didn't cause the abuse. I'm just trying to help stop it. And I
Yeah.
hope that you can get on board with me. I understand when you get upset when you see it. Use that energy not towards us to be
Exactly.
mad at us. Use that towards writing an email, write a letter, go talk to your MLA, your MP, go talk to your premier, go talk to your ministers, whatever it may be in regards to that area. So I understand when people still get upset, but instead of getting upset at us, get upset at the abusers and use that momentum to move forward. But I know it's hard to see it, but we still need to sometimes show people, and I think that's why we also have those warnings now for discretions. But
I think,
yeah,
yeah. I think it's
it
important
needs
to
to be
have those viewer discretion because I mean, I like to know what's going on. I want to be aware. And sometimes at first I'm so shocked that I can't deal, and then afterwards you talk about it, right? Because that's the only way to process it. So
the
even
pictures
if you
too. That
feel,
it's
even
the
if people were upset with you, in the end, they most likely told several people in their group about it. And then those
yeah.
people told more people. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, like you got to spread
Like
awareness. You can't
for
bury your
for
head.
ex- yeah, for example, look what's going on in the United States. Okay, let's look what's going on in direction towards African Americans right now in the United States. Sometimes it's been happening for a long time, but it's a very hot topic right now. Okay, so if you heard that, I think his name was George Floyd, if I'm not corrected, if you heard that it just happened to him, like in writing, but without seeing the video and the pictures of it, would there have been a much outrage? Would we have the movement that we're having now? That's very important to have, I think. And so, yes, it was very hard to see that man suffer like that and ask for help and ask for the officer to get off. And oh my God, it was just absolutely heartbreaking. But for that, when people saw that, I think that's what truly motivated that movement. If you just read it in words on Facebook and never saw anything what actually happened, I don't think we'd be where we are right now. So
No, it
that's why,
makes it
again, with
real.
animal cruelty, we need to show you these pictures. But again, we'll try to put up discretion so you can look at them only if you want to. We don't always show the most graphic ones, but honestly, sometimes that's just what we need. We need you to get that upset when you see it, but hopefully not at us, and use that to push forward for legislations, for petitions, for letters, for telling your friends and family, for putting it on Facebook, for sharing it. I mean, it's the only way we're going to change the world as a society. And I think social media is such a powerful tool that can be used for such good, but also could be used for very bad. And that's the sad part of it. But it is a very powerful tool in either way that you use it. And I think it's important that we share these things. And I hope people can understand that the only reason we're doing it is not because we want to make you feel sick or sad or make you cry or have a bad day because that's in your head, that picture. It's because we really need your help.
Yeah.
And not really us, the animals, the ones who can't even speak for themselves. It's not us who needs your help. It's them. And they're not doing anything wrong. For the most part, animals mind their own business. They don't harm anyone or hurt anyone. It's us. We get
I
into
know.
their
I
areas,
agree.
their environments, and their space, and we cause damage, and we turn around and blame them.
I
That's
know.
just
It's
not
awful.
fair.
It's
That just doesn't make
crazy.
sense to me. It just doesn't. I just can't ever. And that's the thing. I'll never make sense of it. Just like you said, because there's no sense to be made of it. It's
You're
illogical.
correct. There's
It's
no
not right.
sense.
So
And the
there's no
other
point
thing,
in.
yeah, like you have that blatant outward, you just see the cruelty of things and you can be like, "Oh, those people are evil." But what I also found shocking was the number of surrenders. That really shocked me major because for me, the day we get a dog, to me it's like a family member. So it's like obviously not everyone feels that way, but I don't understand. There are cases obviously where you can't keep it, you're super super ill, or you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
afford it and your husband died, or I don't know, like there's awful
Yes,
cases this.
yes, and we get those cases, and they're totally understandable. My goodness, and
Yeah.
even for the ones that aren't, we're still happy people reached out to us because we don't want to sit there and condemn them for giving up their dog, even if they tell us, "Oh, we're just moving and we decided not to get a place that's dog friendly." You're like, "What? Did you move and decide to get on a place that's kid friendly? Are you leaving your kids?" But at the same time, if I ridicule them or if I say something that makes them hurt too much, they're going to tell me to bug off, and then I don't get to help that animal. So it's kind of that thin line. Generally, the educating done after you take the dog, so you can't have someone tell you no. But we always just try to be open minded. We always just say, regardless of the reason, whether it's a good reason or just absolutely not, we're just there to help the animal. But yeah, it is discouraging when that happens, and I think because people can get animals so easily and throw them away so easily without any repercussions, without any responsibilities, that people continue to do it. You know what I mean? If we had a list where every time someone gave up a dog, they were put on like a list that was like a public list, my God, maybe it would change. If you gave up your dog and every time you did it, then it was reported to animal rights or animal organizations where maybe you weren't, like, there's do not adopt lists. So there are some rescues that where if the dog's ever returned for a really bad reason or given up or given to you for a horrific reason and that person thinks they really didn't do anything wrong or they did but you haven't made them feel that way, then you'll tell other rescues and we'll put you on a private list that's a do not adopt list. So we'll share that with each other, meaning that we're going to share that information. Now, I think you have to be careful with those lists too, because just because you may not like someone who gave up a dog doesn't mean they may not be a good dog owner. So I think you got to be careful on who you're actually putting on this list. You can't just start putting everyone and anyone because you didn't like something or whatever. But if it's pretty serious or if it's a pretty unfortunate, disturbing, sad reason that really they could have done more, then maybe they're eligible for something like that. But I think as long as people can get dogs, cats, horses, or whatever they want on a whim and throw it away on a whim with next to no repercussions, you're going to have that. People, it's just, you know what I mean? It's a shame. It's kind of like if it's not broke, don't fix it. But that's the old school mentality. Nowadays, people just want what they want. They want it. If there's anything wrong, they can throw it away. They don't want to put in hard work. No offense, but a lot of society I find these days,
Yeah,
younger
you're right.
generations, not all, but younger, now, want it now, I want it now, it has to be this, it
You're
has to be
right.
that. Everything's so go, go, go. Nothing's like take your time anymore, put in work, put in focus as much as it used to be. Not that it's not still, but
That's
there's
scary
just so
though,
many.
because I always
Yep,
feel like that too. I always feel like, not with dogs, because I hadn't brought it to that level, but you're right that if they don't get it right away, if it takes, if it's a discipline like learning piano, or if it's learning how to paint, or if it's learning
forget
whatever,
it.
if you don't get it fast, it's not
That's
worth
right.
my time. It's,
Yeah.
too hard.
It, yep.
I hadn't thought about that with animals. That makes it really scary because that's life. You know what I mean? Like
Oh my
that's
God,
that's
it is.
scary.
There's reasons why people give up their dogs all day, and someone's just the silliest reason. Some people had those dogs for 5 days and then they give them back up, or they've had them for this long. And like you said, sometimes there might be reasons that are suitable, of course, and it depends, I guess, on whoever's mind is looking at that reason. And your mind, you might find one reason suitable where I may not. But nonetheless, there is an overpopulation of dogs being given up, surrendered constantly without people taking proper responsibility for those animals. I think that's also why it's important to have those foster to adopt systems with rescues, because you get that time for them to see how the dog is. You get that time to see how the dog is with them. And you still have that right to remove the dog, or they have that right to give back the dog without feeling their adoption fee was kept, without feeling like they adopted the dog and failed, without a rescue, doing that. So that's why I think I like that type of process that
Yeah.
animal welfare organizations will use, because I think it more ensures that the right dog is going to the right home and so forth. But even that being said, it doesn't always work. Or you could have rescues that don't use it and still find amazing homes that work out great. To be honest, in the long run, at rescue animals are easy. Humans are the tough part, my friend. Let me tell you, it's the toughest part of rescue is humans. No doubt. Whether it's working with them and going through these processes, or it's with dealing with the fact that they've mistreated a dog so horribly that you can't even understand how they can sleep at night, how they can wake up and still think, morally that they're a decent person. I don't get it. But then again, that's why it's a sickness, and we need to look at it way more closely, and we need to take it more seriously as a society and a government, and not just towards animals, but towards anyone who abuses anything, child, woman, man, whatever it be, transgender, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If you're a living being and someone is abusing you, that is not okay, period. And I think we need to look at that in a more serious way in all aspects, definitely with animals included, because animals have no voice. So when they get abused, it's hard to speak up for sure, but they still possibly can. An animal can't really speak up unless they visually walk in front of you with those wounds.
I
You don't
know.
know if somebody smacks or punches their dog every night because you're not seeing the wounds. You might start to see where you come over and then you're like, how come your dog seems to be so scared of you all the time? Unless it's like directly like just was taken on and was abused. But it's like, you know what I mean? You might start to see signs like, that's weird. You've had the dog since a puppy. Why is it scared of your hand so much? It's stuff like that. So it's hard to sometimes know. And these animals need a voice. So they need a very loud voice, because whether it be domesticated animals or farm animals, we got a serious problem in this world, let me tell you. And I think the same thing with when you're eating foods right now. It's like if you choose to get a dog from somewhere or a cat, try to choose wisely. Where you choose to buy your food, whether you eat meat or
Exactly.
not, choose wisely. Try
But
not to
it's
buy
like,
factory farmed
yeah,
meat. You know,
it
try to, if you're going
goes
to eat meat, try to buy like sustainable, ethically raised
absolutely.
meat, or not at all. But same thing with some, alternative meat products. Try to find the ones that are better for you, or, try to find, the ones that benefit local growers as opposed to maybe bigger ones that are from overseas. I don't, I'm not trying to be too judgmental. I'm just saying
No, but
where
we
you
have
make your
choices to
decisions,
make,
you have
right?
choices, and where you
You
make
can
your
make good
choices.
decisions, you can make
That's right.
intelligent, informed decisions, and you can do that with animals, and you can do that with buying a
Food,
pair of pants, right?
your pants, exactly, with your pants. It's all about our conscious decisions, and our power of our dollar and the power of our choices is more powerful than
Especially right
any
now,
does
right?
any government, any designer, any horrible breeder or person. I mean, that power says everything. That's why I think when you go to purchase a dog, whether it be from a breeder or adopt from a rescue, please do your research, because where your money goes makes a world of difference. If you don't give these people your money, they no longer function. If these companies no longer sell these products, they will no longer be allowed to function. They won't function off debt. The second they stop making profit, companies they're out. They're done with it. So I think that plays a huge part too. So I really just encourage people to do your research, whether it's a rescue or a breeder. Just do your research. I'm not here to judge you. Just please research, educate yourself. And if you don't feel right about something, whether it's with a rescue or not, don't go forward with it. Usually your gut feeling is a good feeling, to be honest with
Absolutely.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being an
Oh,
advocate
you're so
for
welcome. Thank you
animals
as well. Thank
and
you.
for being their voice and for sharing,
Thank you.
your feelings with us and
Appreciate
your
you letting me.
experiences and your insights on everything.
Thank
And
you for having me.
I
It means a
definitely
lot.
look once we have a home that's our own, I'm definitely going to rescue and hopefully with you.
I know you
And
will, my friend. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I am sorry to hear when your landlord said no all of a sudden after we were in the conversations with it. I guess better now than having the dog in your home and then finding out no, which is, that is even more tough. But, at
yeah.
least it has something you can look forward to in the future. I'm excited to work with you guys. But remember, you don't have to adopt from us. I just always say, please just try to adopt. There's amazing other rescue
Yeah,
organizations out
yeah.
there. You may not always find the dog with us, but do your research, ask around. We'll be happy to tell you ones that we know that are great. There's a lot that we don't know that are great. There's some that aren't. There's some that just completely are a complete facade. You know what I mean? And they're not a
Yeah.
rescue. But you should be able to hopefully filter through that. People are, I think, smart enough to know when you start to ask questions and do your due diligence in your research, you'll see if red flags start to pop up. And hang in there, because rescue can be tough, because we all it's more popular than ever now. You could
I
have
noticed.
100 people applying for one dog. I can only make one person happy. 99 people are disappointed, or they
Yeah.
understand, but and it can roll. It could take a while. And I know we all know, all us rescues understand your frustration out there, people of wanting to rescue but not getting responded to, or never being chosen, or having to wait. We could understand how frustrating it is. I could feel the same way you feel if I was doing that to a rescue. But we're just trying our best. We're just
Oh yeah,
people
definitely.
doing it with next to no government support, next to no grants, and we're just trying to do it to help these animals as we can. So hang in there.
We
Please hang
are.
in
Like, how
there.
great is it that you have so many people applying for one dog? Like,
I
that's
am so
amazing.
grateful for it, but it always breaks my heart to have to disappoint so many people. I wish I had a dog for every great family out there when they wanted it, when they were ready. That's the goal in the future. We just hopefully small rescues can have open up to bigger grants from the government, more support, and just continuing to help the way that we're helping. And we honestly just can't do that without people like yourself, Amy, and the community. So thank you to everyone out there who continues to advocate just for
Yeah.
animal welfare in general, just for the better treatment of animals, each other, the environment, the world. Let's just keep at it and do it with all your heart, because we need it now more than ever. Definitely.
Yeah. So once we put this on our website, I'll put a link also to your website,
Okay.
Raincoast Dog Rescue. And so people
Right.
can check it out. I think there's a page where people can donate if they want to help out
Yeah.
and follow the news, follow your stories. And
Yeah. So briefly,
just,
raincoastdogrescue.com is our website. You can check out all about our information there, the adoptable dogs, our process, everything. Ask questions. You can message from there. You can apply from there. Facebook, you can see a lot what's going on constantly. It's a little more updated and live feed and what's happening. And there's all the options on there too. You can message us. Our Instagram. So Facebook's just Raincoast Dog Rescue. Instagram, just Raincoast Dog Rescue. And our website, raincoastdogrescue.com. It doesn't get much simpler than that. And like I said, even if you're not adopting right now and you just have questions about dogs or about adopting or breeding or anything, shoot us a message. We'll be happy to answer the best that we can as soon as we can.
great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Amy. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.